ThinkReactLead's radio show. I'm your host, Dom Faussette, executive coach and leadership speaker, here with you on Intelligent Talk 960 The Patriot, KKNT. You know what, folks? I don't normally talk like that, unless there's a time where we're out and we have to use the voice because somebody gives you. So, what do you do for a living? You have to say, I'm a radio show host. But you have to make them sound. You have to make it believable. Speaking of believable, you know what? I hope you had a believable week, a fantastic weekend. For those of you in the social media realm where you can see the videos, thank you very much for tuning in. I greatly appreciate that. And for those of you in radio world, thank you for sticking around and hanging out with me every week. And this is what we do. We do this weekly. And the purpose of this show is, one, if I'm not interviewing an awesome guest, is just to inspire, motivate, encourage, and give you some business insider tips that you can utilize to take your business to the next level. And then if I am interviewing somebody, it is always somebody that is light years ahead of where I am as it relates to the space that they are an expert in. So I do have not an autobiography. I have a bio that I'm going to read on this guest, and then I'm just going to give like my bio, right? The one from the heart. We've got Samuel Hernandez in the studio. Sam Hernandez is a high-tech sales professional with withvectra AI, an AI-driven cybersecurity company based out of San Jose, California. With over 25 years of experience under his belt in various industries, Samuel has helped global 2,000 Fortune 500 companies transform their data centers leveraging best-of-breed solutions. And the list goes on, but let me share something with you. So Sam and I have known each other. You know what? First, Sam, thank you very much for coming in. I appreciate that. You're a boss now. So you are a busy man. Close to 1,000 employees from what I've gathered during our offline conversation. But let me share something with you. I've known Sam since second grade. And to look at our lives now, one might suggest that we've always had it this way. Folks, for those of you that aren't familiar with the Inland Empire in Southern California, it is, when we were in high school, a lot of guys we knew went to prison. Some guys we knew went to the grave. Sam and I made it out. And Sam and I reconnected via social media, obviously years later, and that we just kind of took off from there. So he's doing great things. So Sam, dude, you're here. Thanks, brother. I appreciate that.
Good to be here, man. It's been a journey. I mean, I'm here for work, and I figured, well, I'm in Phoenix. I gotta hit up Dom, see what's up, and
right,
make it work.
So let's I don't even know where we're gonna start, but let's start with the easy stuff, like the tech stuff, the current thing. So you've been with Vectra for how long?
3 months, just over 3 months.
Okay, yeah. Okay, and the company you were at previously, you were there for how long?
Over 6 years, almost 6.5 years.
That's a long time in the world that you're in. A lot of stress.
The longest place I've ever been in my IT career. Like usually the last place that I was at was 5 years. VMware for 4. Cisco for 9 months. That didn't work out.
Right.
I was not feeling it.
Okay.
But it's been great. It was a good run.
And it's a startup. I say startup. 1,000 employees is not a startup, but we're gonna go with that.
But pre-IPO, put it that way.
Okay, fair enough. And you were headhunted to come to this company, I'm assuming. Is that how that worked out?
Yeah, I mean, so it's a small industry. I mean, one of the things that we talk about is your brand being so important. Mm-hmm. You and I talk about that a lot, and someone gave me a call based on a reference from a buddy of mine that they knew I was looking, and I think the interview process was 8 days.
Okay, that's a short for your coin level and your caliber. That's short.
It was fast.
Yes,
it was extremely fast.
And you like the job. You seem happy. You are happy. Now, when somebody says tech sales, who are you selling to? Because we got Best Buy. I'm thinking tech. Best Buy. I'm good. I got Amazon.
We're not selling to consumers. I mean,
right.
We're selling to the folks behind everything, right? So if you look at I'll use AAA insurance as an example. I mean, a lot of people, I have AAA insurance. I'm a AAA member for 20 plus years.
Right.
They ran our stuff.
Okay.
Right. And so all the systems that it takes to, run a data center, the website you log on to bestbuy.com. They were also Nutanix customer, huge Nutanix customer.
Okay.
Right. All the back end systems that are necessary to make the interweb
right, the interwebs
a thing, right?
And you're responsible for what currently?
So right now at Vector AI, it's a startup company. My job is to connect the really smart people with the customers who need to understand how our technology works and help them decide on their journey, like how best to use us. It's not the typical approach. Most people are like, hey man, you gotta buy my stuff, it's really awesome. And my approach, I've always kind of had that servant kind of attitude. It's like, look, like, your business better than I do.
Right.
I've got a really good product. I know for a fact I can help you. It's up to you to decide whether or not you want to do that or not. So
pretty laid back, pretty chill. But I mean, you've been like that since I've known you. Just a laid back for the most part. Now, your job requires. It's safe to assume that your position requires a lot of you.
Oh, dude, it's intense.
Okay.
It's it's nonstop. I mean, coming from a systems engineer where your primary role is to be the technical support person. And that part's pretty easy. It's kind of prescriptive. Hey, go solve that problem. The sales guy, the guy who owns the bag, right?
Right.
He's responsible for the number. He's the quarterback. If the team fails, it's the quarterback that's getting fired, right? It's the sales guy that's getting fired. So it's a big responsibility. The strategy, how you can approach a customer, the financial aspect of things, bringing all the resources in. It's all on you, right? And so. I remember the first day I made the transition from being an engineer to sales rep. I woke up and I was like, oh man, that's pretty cool. I don't have any meetings today. I was like, oh crap, wait, I don't have any meetings. That's on me now.
Right. You have to create the meetings.
I got to go get that stuff going. And so it's a constant pressure. And I think a lot of it comes down to if you actually care about like your job, your customers, your product, then you can't let people down, man. Like what we're doing is important in my mind.
And people they become loyal to you. They become fans of Sam, right? You're gonna make a mistake, but what relationship was built for years prior to that one mistake being made? Have you leveraged that?
I make mistakes all the time, man. And I'm not ashamed to. I talk about them all the time. Hey man, I remember when I did this. This is the result. Man, it was bad. Don't do that.
Okay.
Right. Let me tell you what I learned from it. This, I operate. I tell people all the time. Like I operate to 3 tenets: transparency, honesty, and integrity.
Right.
Right. Transparency to a fault. Sometimes I'll tell you like, hey, and then things you don't want to hear. I remember being with the COO of Kaiser Permanente. And him asking me a question, and I'm like, no, that's not how it works. And he literally fired me on the spot. He's like, no one talks to me that way. And I'm like, listen, if you want a yes man, like you
get the wrong guy.
The wrong person.
Right.
I'm here to help you from a technical perspective, right? And what you're saying is absolutely wrong. That's not how it works. And later that day, we were in New Orleans. We were at the Cat's Meow.
Okay.
And of course, I sang karaoke because that's what I do. and because I figured, well, hey, I'm fired, right?
Right.
One customer. He fired me, and then I'm up on stage singing, whatever, right? Probably like Sweet Caroline or something.
A normal karaoke song, right?
Karaoke song, and he's like, that guy is crazy. I love him. He's rehired, like so. But he was that just unapologetic integrity. Like, this is who I am. You don't like it? Cool, fire me. I'll introduce you a new rep.
He had a shoot cut. Basically, is what that boiled down to. And you have like I'm going to call it a lackluster. You have a confidence about yourself, and it's not your normal. It's not as the verbiage they use is swag. It's not swag, and it has nothing to do with the fact that you're Puerto Rican. Even though there's like that, I think there's
swagger there.
Right. But you've got a confidence about yourself as it relates to your position and the skill set you have. Where did that come from?
Ooh, it's a great question. Originally it came from me having done the job. I mean, from an IT perspective, I was the grunt that ran the cables up in the plenum.
Okay.
And then from there, I started doing designs, and from there, I got into a management role. I was an MIS manager, then an IT director, and so I've done all the things that like people set out to do at a really high, with a high level of success.
Right.
And so going into a sales call, for instance, where someone says, "Oh, that's not possible," I'm like, "No, it is. I've done it."
Right. Been there, done that.
Let me show you how to do it.
Okay.
And it's across a large breadth of technology: security, infrastructure, networking, virtualization, storage. Like, I've done all those things, right? I've set them up, I've designed them, I've broken them,
right,
I've fixed them.
Okay.
Right? I was a nerd who had like a RISC server way back when. This is dating myself, but a RISC server in my house, and we would like have network parties where we would set up like automated networks just to see if we could. Like, that was what we did for fun. Like,
you were that guy?
I was the total that guy.
Oh, I didn't know it was
I didn't look it because I dressed nice.
Right. And usually Puerto Rico's not that guy. Okay, I like it. And you've taken all that insight, and at the end of the day, you've created a brand. And that brand, you've leveraged that brand outside of the workspace. I mean, for those of you that don't know, Sam is heavy into Jeeps. I would say he's part of the reason that I currently am into Jeeps.
Influencer status.
Yeah, you do have influencer status. You're sponsored by Nito Tires.
Brand ambassador.
Yeah. Okay, and you're known like within the Jeep community because there's guys that I see, and then I see I Am Rocklander on there. And you started a podcast, didn't you?
I started it, and then I started this new job, and I was like, oh my man, like priorities, man.
Right. Okay. And and I'm going to talk about the balance of having something outside of your job that puts a larger smile on your face. I'm not talking kids. I'm not talking spouse. I'm talking like something that's yours. For you, it's Jeeping. I think you just got into welding. When we come back from break, I want to talk about how important that is, having a hobby, right, as it relates to your stress level. Because you have a head full of hair. I don't know what that says about me. I'm not stressed, but it might look like it when you compare the two. But you just purchased a home. Yes, you just had a home built. So there's a lot of stress factors in there. I was a coach for a good period of time. What do you think the difference was? I'm not in your life, right? What was the difference between pre-coaching with me to today?
Oh, it's huge, man. It's fun. I tell the story all the time about my executive coach, and I'll shoot your name out there so often. And the one thing that I always share is like, man, he was brutal. Like, he was not nice. Like, he would call me out on stuff. And I remember you had set an exercise for me to do with the sticky notes, and I hadn't done it. And you're like, all right, we're gonna do this right now. And I was like, dang, bro. Like, the accountability that you forced, right? Is not normal. It's not what you would expect from people. I've talked to counselors. I've talked to church counselors, professional counselors, and they all, let's just listen and talk. And they don't punch you in the face and give you a hug the way that you do. And I think that's what resonated with me. I have a very similar approach, in my business, where sometimes customers need to hear the tough thing. And so I have this saying where you got to punch them in the face and give them a hug. It's like, hey, I'm just trying to get your attention. You need to hear this, right? But post coaching, man, a lot has changed. I think my marriage has been improved like dramatically.
I can see the difference on social media.
Dramatically. I mean, we still got our issues, man. We're
who doesn't?
I'm in it, right?
Right. Who doesn't?
If I'm there, there's gonna be issues, right?
You and me both.
No, it's been transformative, honestly, dude. It's actually a trip. Not what I expected at all. I mean, I was looking, I hired you, I was like, well, I'm looking to get the next level of my career, in my job, my job, and you were like, no, we're gonna talk about your personal stuff, and we're gonna talk about your. And I was like, that's not what I hired you for. But okay, like, what's going on here, man? Like, but like, there was one thing that you said: if you can't manage things on this side of the doorknob, how can you expect to manage on the other? And that resonated with me. And you're absolutely right. I think things need to be kind of taken care of at home. It's where it starts. Right, and then from there you grow that out, and I think that philosophy can be applied to so many things.
I like it. You're one of the things I did with you, and I started doing it a lot more with other clients that were married, was once or twice bringing you and the spouse on to have a conversation, right? And that's the reason I started doing that was to get buy-in, for me, one, to explain to your spouse, your wife, what's going on. But then we're dudes. Like, there's going to be some things you share with me, and there's going to be a lot that you don't. That's every dude I've ever coached. So when I ask the spouses, what is something that you think your husband needs to work on? It's almost like she's talking to me like you're not even there. You're like, hello, I'm in the room. Like, I mean, he asks you some things, not everything. But what that does is it puts everything out on the table. And when I look at the two of you now, I mean, you have a gorgeous home. Like, you...
It's pretty baller.
Yeah.
My wife did an amazing job with that place.
Yes, she did. You got a gorgeous home.
Yeah.
But you're happy. Like, I've seen you guys camping together, jeeping together. And if I look at posts prior to us coaching, I don't really think I saw a lot of that. It was really your escape.
Yeah.
Really your escape. Do you think that and this is not a loaded question. I'm not asking you a question where I have the answer, but do you think that your coaching leads to a better relationship because you were open, but the better relationship, do you think that led to your progress within the company you were at, and then the progress you have with the company you're at now?
100%. I mean, we talk about, command presence, right? And we talk about, I mean, one of the things that we talk about a lot, which is like understand, like go find you, man. Like go be you, right? There's a quote that I love that came from Chuck Robbins. I was at New Hire from Cisco Systems, had an opportunity to talk to the CEO. I mean, the CEO is one of the largest like IT companies in the freaking world, right? Like, they're part of the stock when they don't do well, like the stock market feels it, kind of thing, right? And he said in his southern accent, like, you gotta let me be me, and I gotta let you be you. Right. We can't both be the same person. A CEO who's a visionary isn't always the organizational person. Of course. Right? Like, those are two different people. My wife and I are two completely different people, and I think what we started to realize, post coaching was like, hey, I can't expect her to do those things. That's what I do. Right. And then I had to call her out and say, hey, you can't expect me to do your thing. That's you. And then as you take that into the work arena, it's like, hey, this is what I'm good at, and this is not what I'm good at. Why don't we figure out how to work together in the best, most efficient way possible, right? Because we're all in it to win it, right? But in it to like succeed, man. Like, we want our stock price to go up. We want to close deals. There's a bigger picture. There's a bigger picture, and as soon as we start to focus on that bigger picture, everything else just kind of follows, man. It's you guys have taken a couple vacations. Like I said, you have the house built, but as it relates to work, there's so much freedom in the ability to lead at work from your heart because things at your house are in order. Oh yeah. Right? There's nothing. I've been in that position where I'm leading. It's almost like I'm being a fake leader. Like, I'm Dom Faussette, and today, folks, we're gonna do A, B, and C. Meanwhile, I haven't talked to my wife, my ex-wife at the time, in over 3 days. Right? You lay in the bed and it feels like you can put all of Texas between the two of you, and that feeling of happiness. And this is gonna tie into, like, you're heavy into Jeeping, and Sam, I wish you would have warned me long time ago. Like, all my buddies said, dude, get a Rubicon, lift it, 37s, you're good. No, sir, that is not how that works, because then you want axles, then you want, I'm not going to nerd out about Jeeps, but that's the only regret that I have, Sam. You should have, like, advised me of really, if I don't have 60 grand, I should probably just hold off on Jeeping. It never ends, bro. No, it does not. And I'm always breaking stuff. But, folks, we're going to talk about hobbies as it relates to your passion, as it relates to how you show up as a leader for better results, because, like Sam said, if you can't lead from home, you have no business leading in the workplace, although many people do. And that could be your boss. Maybe you can get him to watch or her to watch this show. We're going to jump back into this fantastic interview with my guy, Sam Hernandez. Sam and I, if you're just tuning in, I've known Sam since second grade. My parents got out of the military. I go to this elementary school in San Bernardino, California, also known as the Inland Empire. And I see this kid that everybody's like, oh, you look like Sam. You look like Sam. At the time, we both had big curly hair. And what's crazy is I did not know like what my makeup was, my ethnicity, my background, till I was 30. I grew up with my dad and my mom, saw my grandparents all the time, but I found it
interesting that they would. I would always ask my dad, like, Dad, you know, what are we? Here I am, my hair straight, like I'm not looking like any of the other black kids. He's like, you're black. And it at 30, I found out from my grandfather, the Portuguese, the Puerto Rican. I'm like, it's all starting to make sense. So me and Sam, or Sam and I, did look like brothers. You've always been, you know, when I met you, had a camera in your hand, like, and not a cheap, like, no, it was not a disposable camera. Like you had. It was like the 80s. You had an expensive camera in your hand, so you've always been like that tech guy. But you've always been trying things, right? Jeeping is your thing. Jeep. Let's not talking about jeeping, but what a good hobby does for your soul, as it relates to how you become a greater leader. What's that do for you?
Oh man, you talked about Borat the other day.
On the news.
Yeah, on the news.
Yeah,
and it. He explained it, but my son explained it best. I took him out to Utah, and we did some crazy things, and I broke, like, in a really epic way, like, epic.
What'd you break?
I broke the drag link. It's a 2.5-ton drag link.
Oh, shoot.
On my Jeep, and no replacement. It's all custom.
Okay.
Right? And my son was like, Dad, like, why do you do this? This is crazy. You know, we were doing there's scratch all over my Jeep from that trip.
Of
right?
course.
And the way I explain it is, like, you know, my job is high stress, high intensity. It is like we're operating at a level with the best of the best in the country, in my opinion, right? We're working with the best. That requires an equal opposing force.
I like. Okay, keep
right?
going.
So the intensity of, like, work is going to drive the intensity of my hobby. So if I'm not almost dying, which is an exaggeration,
but not really though.
No, I guess
you could.
Tell my wife
there's
that.
a cliff. There's cliffs, so you can roll your Jeep pretty easy, bro.
Oh no, it's gnarly, man. There've been times where you laugh and your hands are shaking, but it's the equal opposing force,
right?
You know, and you know, I always make the joke, you know, I work for Jeep parts,
right? Of course, because they're expensive.
It's freaking expensive. But it's my passion, and what ends up happening is I get outside. I've built all these relationships. Man. Like it's a whole world.
It
man.
is a whole it's
my
another
neighbors,
world.
My neighbors, like, you know, I've had people, like 3 or 4 people, including yourself, who've bought a Jeep because, like, oh my gosh, like, that dude's having so much fun. I want to do that, and it's a life changer, man. It sounds corny.
But for anybody that has a hobby, no matter what the hobby is, you know, and I've never heard it the way you just prefaced it with, you know, when you have a high stress job or career. My job's stressful. What you do outside of that, your hobbies, for balance. I'm not a big fan of balance, but for lack of a better word, for balance, your hobby's got to be as extreme as you push your business. So racing motorcycles is something I'm more passionate about that than I am Jeeping, but I can get further in a Jeep than I can on a mountain bike, so I go the Jeep route. But there is something to be said about being out there outdoors, right? See, enjoying the state that you live in. I've seen parts of Arizona that I didn't know existed. You've seen parts of California and other states that you've been in. You're like, there's like, without my Jeep, I would not have been in this position. And then you can share it with your son. You shared it with your wife, and there's no age restriction on Jeeping. And I see dads and daughters and, like, generations. So I think anybody who has a level of stress in their job, that stress, I'm not gonna say goes away, but it's looked at different when you're not going home and just watching TV. When you have something, and we talked about Borat, well, we didn't, but you brought it up, something to look forward to on the weekend. Right? Or something to talk about. You're like, yeah, you know, I Jeep. Or when you're at work, oh, I saw your Instagram. I'm sure you get that a lot. Dude, you Jeep. How do you like it? And then it just builds rapport.
Yeah, it does. I mean, you know, I talk about having transparency, right? And like, I share everything that I do with people. Like, you know, I roll up to business meetings in a freaking Giorgio Armani suit and roll out of a muddy Jeep. Right?
Exactly.
And it's just like, you know, it's kind of chop out so I don't get my pants.
Yeah, you got to jump out, like, away from the Jeep.
But it's like, you know, there's this idea that you have to be something or somebody. And you and I talked about it. No, it's like, you be you, man. Like, it's amazing what happens when you're transparent with people and you're just real. It's a rarity now.
You get out of your Jeep, your Armani suit, and I'm just prefacing for the audience, and your Jeep is muddy. You show up to your meetings, and there's this perception that I think, especially with minorities in the corporate space, at your level, at the level I was at before I left corporate, usually we're the only brown person at the boardroom or in the boardroom or at the table. And there's this like circa 1985 fitting in that our parents did, because I think they had to. But we're in this generation where being in the corporate space, being a person of color, or even a woman, you have to. There's no women here, so we talk about dudes. You have to fit in to what the majority wins, to what the majority is. And during our coaching, we talked about that. Like it's not, and I had to explain this to my wife. We both have wives that don't look like us, that don't tan that well. I had to explain this to my wife. It is hard going to work every single day, having to not say certain things because you're the only person of color. Not that it would be bad, but it's you got to play that. It's a landfill, and it's very strategic. And you say, dude, dress the wrong way. Like, how often have you been the only guy in a suit?
All the time.
Right, me too. They're like, why you wear a suit? And I got to a point as I was leaving my job, I was like, because I'm black. Like, let's just call it what it is. If I dressed the way you did, Scott, like I would not promote because of media, in my opinion. You stopped doing that. I don't know how long ago, but you're very comfortable being the Boricua boss that you are. But when did that start?
Honestly, dude, it was post-coaching, because prior to that, there was this really hard drive to, like, I have to be perfect. Or this image of perfection in my mind, which, man, I don't even know where that came from. It's not, it's
impossible.
Fake.
Exactly.
It's so fake.
Right.
I like nice clothes, man. Like a nice shirt. I like a nice suit, and I wear it because I want to.
Right.
But now, I remember I used to rock a mustache.
Bro, when?
Dude, it was not a pleasant time. This is before social media. Thank God.
Like just a mustache?
Yeah, just a mustache. It was a.
You do know you're not in Puerto Rico, right? Like you're not.
Yeah, I know.
Anyways, go ahead.
But that was the thing. There's like hey, I'm Puerto Rican. Blah blah.
Suavito.
I look older, right?
Right, exactly.
And it was the funniest looking mustache.
I could imagine.
Like it was so like whack, right? But I felt I had to do it, and I remember recalling that when I got to a point where I was like, I don't feel like wearing a suit. I'm gonna wear shorts.
Right.
I wore a short to a business meeting. It was a casual business meeting, right?
It was still a business meeting, bro. Okay.
I mean, there were nice shorts, nice shirt, and I remember my wife going, "Wow, you're just pretty casual today. Like, where are you going, right? Like,
Right.
Are you really going to work?" But it's like confidence level, right? It's like, listen, we're not having a board meeting. We're just gonna have coffee. It's a relationship building kind of thing, and
right.
It's hot outside. I'm wearing shorts,
exactly,
and flip flops.
Oh, you wear flip flops.
We went
wear deck shoes. You went all out.
I went all out. I was making a statement.
Right. Okay.
For myself, really.
Right.
We went to a really nice, Piccolino's restaurant, one of my favorite restaurants in our area. It's kind of a posh place. You dress up.
Right.
People dress up.
Not
I went there
shorts.
after welding and stuff, and like my shorts and like
right.
A t-shirt. And my wife's like, we can't go like that. I'm like, my money's just as good in these clothes as it is in a suit. We're going because I want a nice steak.
Right.
And it's that level of confidence that came from just being you, man. Like, and it's attractive, and not like in the sense of like physically attract.
Right.
Like that's good looking. It's you attract positive energy. You attract positive, influential people when they see that guy walked in. Talk about it all the time, about command presence, and like, he's not thinking about what people are thinking.
Right.
About
He just
him.
doesn't care.
Yeah.
And there's showing up, waking up. I'm not gonna say not caring, but caring more about self. Self-care seems to be like this trend, which is good, especially for guys. But waking up in the morning without the stress of I need to fit in, because you and I talked about that, and it was, I think, and it may have been another client, the conversation came up of like nobody really cares. Like I've talked to a lot of minority male leaders, and they're like, I gotta show up like this. I'm like, who's telling you this? I think it's your parents, and you're holding on to this. Mijo, you gotta show up like this because as they our parents used to say, it's white man's world. But these guys are our age. Like, we have the same interests, same thing. You see a different you in the mirror than your audience, that we call them peers, sees you in the mirror. And waking up, getting to the point of, you know what? I'm not going to lead with this angst of race. I'm going to lead with just my skill set. Mm-hmm. And you lead with your skill set. That's what put you in a position to now lead close to 1,000 employees and be responsible. Because if you're responsible for, let's just say, 10 employees, it's almost like that times 4 people, because you got families involved. And almost every breath of air that you exhale dictates the future of an employee.
Yeah, I mean, I think, my boss, super, like, he's a boss guy. Like, he loves he's a good boss.
Okay.
Right? He's like a coach.
Got you.
Like a coach, he's active.
He was meant to have that role.
He's so good.
Okay.
Man. He's so good. And we talk about, like, hey, like, where do you want to be? What do you want to do? Eventually, I want to lead my own team. But right now, they do that in the sales role. They're freaking killing it, man. Like, why would I stop doing that? But it's knowing what I want and being able to communicate that with somebody, and not feel like, well, I don't deserve it, or there's no way I'll be able to achieve it. It's like, yeah, if I want to do that, I'll eventually get there. It's just about, what do I want to do? You know what I mean?
What advice do you have for somebody, let's say, not starting from the ground up, but it is in the corporate space, and they're not sure how to promote? Like, if somebody was talking to you right now, they're your mentee, and you've got to give them advice on how to promote, what would you tell them?
Oh man, it's funny. I've been asked this question. I've mentored a couple people, and it's been cool, and they all ask me that, and my approach isn't for everybody, because it means you're going to be working a lot more, right? But my approach is like help, like genuinely help. But you got to care about it. You got to, like, just say yes, right? Say yes to everything in the beginning,
right?
In the beginning, right? Because most people are lazy. Most people,
it's easy to shine.
It's easy to shine. So all you gotta do is just be helpful. And what's gonna happen, like, genuinely, like, yeah, I'll volunteer, pitch in, do whatever, do the things that no one else wants to do and they all complain about, right? Because then what ends up happening is they're like, well, dude, that Samuel guy, right? He's always there. And then learn to say no. Right, because there's that rule, there's that fine balance between being taken advantage of, right, which can happen. It will happen.
Oh, it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. You have to learn to say, nah, you know what, like, and all of a sudden there's this, like, whoa, like, he always says yes. Why is he saying no? There's a level of respect that comes from learning when and how to say no.
You say no. For anybody watching this, you say no when the person comes to ask you for help with a preconceived answer of, I'm only asking out of being a nice guy, but I know Dom is going to say yes. And you'll notice the difference. Like, it's almost like the first 4 or 5 times, hey, Sam, can you help out with this? Yes. Oh, cool. And then the same person will, hey, Sam, I need you to. You'll notice a change in their conversation. When you begin to notice a change in a person's conversation, that's when you say no. And don't do it with attitude, people. Like, do it with no. And then in the beginning, would you explain, like, give a reason as to why you can't, so you don't look like a DB?
You know what I would say in the beginning? Yeah, I would say, hey man, I'm out of cycles. Like, I would love to help you, but I can't. This is what I got going.
Okay.
But so and so probably can. Hey,
give them an alternative.
Give them an alternative.
Okay.
Hey, or maybe go to the website, Google it. You know what I mean? Not that hard.
Right, exactly.
Some people are lazy, man.
Most people are lazy, and you mentioned that earlier. It is so easy to shine, and I think in any industry, right? I'm a speaker. I do radio. Most people in my industry do podcasts. It makes me like, I don't even have to. It's becoming the obvious choice when you walk into a room. Sam walks into a room, he's the obvious choice. Do you notice that as you get older, as you become more wise, you speak less?
Oh my gosh, yes. We were just talking about it on the way up here with one of my colleagues. There's something that happens with the lack of confidence.
Right.
That you feel like you have to fill the void.
Right.
Like, I'm just as good, like, asking a question and like letting that 5-minute awkward silence just run. I'm comfortable there.
Right.
Most people aren't. That puts me at an advantage, right?
Huge advantage.
They're squirming. What do I say? And the longer the pause, the more effective that pause is. And, sometimes I'll let somebody out, like
right.
feel bad, right? See them physically sweating. I don't have to be the man in the room, right?
Because you're the man within.
Yeah, exactly. I'm good, man. Like, I can walk in and we had cocktails with the VP of sales for the West here, and he walks in, and my job is to make the other people in the room shine. He already likes me, or we already have a good relationship.
Right.
He knows me from other people. So, but these two people, colleagues that I was with, they hadn't met him yet. So my job is, hey, this person did this. She's amazing. This person did that. He's awesome. Right. And that when it's not always about you, and you actually genuinely care and thinking about others and how we can together as a team, shine.
Right.
Like, the focus ends up being on you for whatever reason. The exact opposite of what you think is going to happen.
Oh yeah, that's a strategy play. I mean, but it does work. How to win friends and influence people.
Yeah.
All right. So as we wrap up, what's the future of Sam look like? Not the summer of Sam, because that's weird, but the future of Sam.
The future of me, man. I love what I'm doing right now. It's extremely challenging. I left Nutanix, great company. We were doing. I mean, dude, we were killing it. Right?
Yeah,
we were killing it, and one of the top reps in the West. And I came to Vectra AI for the challenge. I mean, it's been super challenging. I'm learning a lot. I'm out of my comfort zone. There's so much learning to do, and it's a brand new kind of field that everyone's doing, and I genuinely believe that everyone needs to do what we're selling. Not necessarily from us. I really don't care. I mean, I think we're the best, right? But bro, you got to do something. Right? If you have a large enterprise and you're concerned about security, you got to get an NDR tool in place.
Okay.
Same way you would do a firewall. It's a new space because people are getting hacked every 7 minutes.
Yeah, they are.
We saw Colonial Pipeline. We saw JBS. We saw, $11 million in rents. It's a business. So we have to do something. So I feel like, oh man, this is a way for me to, be transformative the same way I was at when I was at VMware. Same thing I did with Nutanix, and now it's security. So the future of me is keep doing what I'm doing for the next 5 years, and eventually get into a management role. Okay. Within the same company, and share my passion of how I do business with my team.
I love it. Yeah. Well, folks, this is Sam Hernandez. You can follow him. IAM.Rocklander, and then there's Facebook, Samuel Hernandez as well. But Sam, I just want to say thank you very much for coming in, folks. Thanks for listening and watching. Once again, my name's Dom Faussette, your host of the Think React Lead radio show. And until next time, we'll see you on the other side.